Oh yeah. I get around.
What's up? It's 93 Till. I'm back again with LA Bango this week. How's
Yeah,
it going, man?
pretty cool.
Dope, dope.
Pretty chill.
So you've been putting out a lot of music, making a name for yourself around the city. Before we get into all that, um, let's hear a little about like your story. Where'd you grow up in Chicago?
Well, I'm actually not from Chicago. I'm from Dalton, which is a suburb about, I say about 30 minutes south on a no traffic day. Um, and I was born in Harvey though, so I can start there. Born in Harvey, moved back and forth between Harvey, Indiana, which is like right next to Dalton, and basically any southeast suburb, um, and Dalton. And I grew up with I was an only child for a while, for a really long time, but I'm the oldest of five siblings now. Stay with my grandparents, stay with my dad. I didn't live with my mom, but we talked. We was cool, and I don't know. I can go so many places, with that question.
Yeah, I know in the song "Bitter Berries," you talk about being like African American and also part Mexican.
Yeah,
How was that like growing up in those two, having those two things when you were growing up, realizing that those are both parties?
it's a jarring juxtaposition. I feel like because I'm on both ends of the spectrum, whereas I recognize that I do have a privilege for having fair skin, and even my economic privilege of where I was able to grow up and go to school and how I was able to be schooled. But also at the same time, living in a neighborhood that's declining, that's mostly black. My household is black. Everybody that I grew up in the house with, other than my father, is a lot darker than me. So the injustices and anything that falls under that umbrella, I also felt that too. But at the same time, you have colorism within both communities, whereas there were people in my mother's family who is from Mexico that didn't want me to be born because I was black. And I came out and I'm white. I look just like my mom, but and then on the other end of that, the black side of my family always made me feel like I wasn't black enough. Like there were things that I couldn't talk about because I'm light skinned, or because they assumed I didn't experience things the same way they did. And truthfully, I don't. As being a person of lighter skin, I don't experience things the same way someone of darker skin does. But being on both sides of that and seeing that, it was really hard for me finding an identity amongst all the other things we have to deal with as children in the 90s and 2000s. But it made me want to strive for breaking down those barriers, talking about the things that I talk about in Bitter Berries. I tell everybody when they ask me about that song, I was scared as shit to release that song because of what I just said, because I thought that people would think that I wasn't black enough to talk about injustices. But I went to school for political science. That what I went through as a child, what I felt as a young adult, made me want to pursue justice, made me want to pursue philosophy, and being able to express myself in a professional as well as a creative manner. So
Dope. So you're like growing up south suburbs. When did you start noticing that music was definitely going to be your thing?
I think I didn't really pick up on it for a while, and the reason I say that is because at some point music became a way for me to cope with being misunderstood. So it was a way for me to be validated by other people. But the more that I have conversations with people that I grew up with or with my family members, the more they tell me how I used to sing all the time. When I was a kid, I used to ride up and down the block singing on my bike.
Yeah.
And it got to a point one day where this girl that I had a crush on, she stopped me one day when I was on my bike, like, yo, I like the songs you sing. You're like the block radio. So the more I start uncovering and looking into myself before the music, the more I realize that it was something that's always been a part of me.
So did you start, for the timeline wise, did you start getting fully like this should be my thing around high school or grade school? Or?
I think it was grade school. um, where I realized it was more than a hobby. This was something that like I really appreciated doing. This is something that gave me good feelings. I was probably maybe, however old you are in 6th or 7th grade. Uh, I was a year younger than that.
Okay.
I skipped a grade. I skipped kindergarten. But it was around that time where I started like writing. I was a huge Lil Wayne fan, huge Dipset fan. Anybody that fell under that mixtape era umbrella, I was a fan of. So I would write a lot of raps in class and pass them to my friend in class at that time, and I just became real passionate about it after that. I just wanted to be the best. After that, the best rapper. And probably around like 13, 14, I started playing around with production. And at that point, I was like, yo, I take this serious. Even if it's not consciously, it was consciously, but at the same time, I say that because I was also taking school very serious. So I was kind of lying to myself and my parents, like, yes, I take school very seriously, but, you know, I also take music very seriously, and I decided to do both. Probably around 16 or 17, I just decided like I'm gonna go as harder for music than I do for school, but I still went pretty hard for school. Graduated with a 3.0 from college, so if I wasn't doing music, I would have graduated like I would be a doctor. I guarantee it. Like,
So you're in high school, you're taking music pretty seriously.
yeah.
You decide to like forego college or
No, that's what I was saying. I graduated college with a 3.0.
okay, where did you go?
High school, I went to UIC for college, but high school, I went to Seton for 3 years, which is a private school in South Holland.
Okay, yeah.
And then I went to Thornwood for my senior year. And wait, what was the question again?
Yeah, no, just how did you like balance both?
How did I balance both? Right. Well, I'll say what a high school day for me looked like.
Yeah.
I woke up in the morning, went to school. From about 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I'm in school. From 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I'm either in basketball or baseball practice. 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I go home, do my homework. I do a lot of my homework in school. If I have homework, I do it between like 6 and 8. From 8 until, if I'm lucky, 12, and my grandma's not tripping, I'd be in my room making a beat, or I'd be at my friend's house doing the same thing or writing. And when I finally decided that it's time to go to bed, I would get ready for bed. I would lay in my bed, pull out my phone, put on a beat, and just write. Sometimes it would be one song, sometimes it would be one verse, sometimes it would be 3 songs. But that was just my routine every day.
Shit, that's crazy. So college probably gave you a little more freedom, it's a little bit less of a hectic schedule.
It did, in a sense, but that's also replaced with working. As soon as I went to school, I started working. I was working at UIC before I started a class at UIC.
What'd you do at UIC?
I worked in, you went there too, right?
Yeah, I went there.
I worked in ECE,
Okay.
and I worked in ECE and SEO and SEL. The ECE department of SEO and SEL.
Okay.
Just as like office administration,
Yeah.
cleaning up, organizing just equipment, making sure the computers are up to date. So in college, you know what, I did have a lot of freedom because they would leave me by myself to do all of these things. And I would go around to different labs. I had like 3 different labs that I would like bullshit in. And if you've heard my mixtape, The Vinyl, from like 3 or 4 years ago, I wrote the majority of that mixtape at that job in those labs. So that job gave me a lot of free time to do homework and write music. I guess I always just found some shortcut in order to make more time for music.
That's dope. So, I know like you graduated. Did you feel pressure from like surrounding people and maybe peers to like go after your degree and not after your degree, just follow your degree with a full-time job, or just not really? You just want to go full music?
I always knew I was going full music. To be honest, the only reason I got a degree was because my grandparents put me through private school most of my life, and it was like, I don't want to let all y'all money go to waste. But now that I look back on that, I kind of wish I didn't do that because now I'm in a shitload of debt from college.
Feel you.
Um, so I was definitely pressured. I'm still pressured. Not as much though, because my family understands and they appreciate my art. They're just like, you just need that one break, you know. But they're not. You need to go get a job now. You need to use your degree. They know I love what I do. And what's crazy is most people think that I got a degree in music. Whenever I have a random conversation with someone, and I'm like, yeah, I graduated from UIC. Oh, well, what? You study music? No, political science. Seriously? You know, like, so I never get really asked or pressured about a job because I'm more known for what I do musically versus whatever academic skills I may have.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, like, I think a lot of rappers now that I'm starting that are my age,
Yeah.
are getting their degrees in college, which you could say like maybe they're not focusing on music a little bit more, people outsiders, but I think it's actually making it even better. Because I think it's like everything you're learning and absorbing in college is translating music that I hear all my friends at U of I doing, or my friends at DePaul. Do you think that that helped you a lot in your writing, just the stuff you're learning?
Definitely. Just in general, I'm a literary. So I started writing because of prose, because of poetry, because of what I learned in English class. So me learning and taking that to a higher education level, like I just put everything in music. My favorite rapper is Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah.
So being 15, hearing what he was putting in music, I was like, if I want to be as good as Lupe Fiasco, I have to be educated. So of course, inherently, everything that I learned about in class, I slipped into a rap here or there.
Dope. What are your favorite Lupe songs?
Coulda Been is number one.
Okay.
Coulda Been is my number one favorite Lupe song. After that, it's probably Failure. After that, it's the Dead President's Freestyle. And these are all mixtape records that are my favorite Lupe song. But it's because he was spitting so hard and just everything he said was just like, you didn't hear people rapping like that. You still don't hear people rapping like that. And then the album, The Cool, just that concept.
Yeah.
The concept and the story he put behind The Cool. I just picked up on some stuff about The Cool maybe like a month ago. And I've been listening to it since, 2008?
Yeah.
2009. So that's what I love the most about Lupe's music is every time you listen to it, you've learned something in life that relates to what he said that flew past you before.
Yeah. And
I love Lupe.
Joke that like Lupe's got like 10 PhDs, but it's real. Like
No,
the
legit.
Stuff he's saying is like.
I think he does have a PhD in something.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I wouldn't be surprised. So.
So I read an article about you that you got your name from a group you were in, from a specific line you said in your rap.
Yeah.
What happened with that? That's how you got. Is that real? How you got your name?
Yeah. I wish I could make some shit like that up. That's pretty fucking cool. But yeah, that legit happened. Like in the basement studio, you know, we used to have to, if someone flushed, we had to stop our recording session type shit. So that really happened. I remember it as clear as yesterday. Like I remember the tile on the ground, the brown like panel walls, the brown table we were working on, the dusty speakers. I remember that session. And in reference to the line I said, I'm the Da Vinci of 16s, the Van Gogh of the flow, paint a picture in your head when I write it like Poe. And my friend Damaris, he just started calling me Van Gogh after that, like whether it was jokingly or just, you know, just you're LA Van Gogh now. So I kind of stuck with it. I wanted to change my name so many times. I changed my name within myself so many times. But LA Van Gogh, everybody would always encourage me, like, keep it. It's nobody's name Van Gogh. Like, it's you.
That's dope. And then do you get the LA part from like your initials?
Yeah.
Yeah.
LA is my real name. I've had that name since I was like 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that because I think some people think maybe it's because you're from LA, Yeah.
People think that. I get that every time. So I introduce myself as LA. Sometimes Lamont. It's kind of just like second nature to be like, hey, I'm LA now.
Yeah.
But as soon as I say that, oh, you from Los Angeles? In my head, I'm just trying to like figure out how people come to that conclusion. It's easy. Like, so I definitely understand. But when you think about it, like, why would someone be named after a city they're from?
For real.
Hey, yo, my homie New York want to holler at you. Like, that's my bro. What's his name? Seattle. He from Seattle? No, we just call him that. Like, so, I mean, I get it, but it's always funny. I play that conversation in my head. Like, what if my nickname was fucking Boulder? Like, Boulder. Salt Lake City.
That's funny. We talk about some of like your rap influences, Lupe.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear like some of your influences on like the R&B and singing side. When I hear songs like Change My Number Part 2, I hear references.
Nice.
I hear not references, I hear elements of other artists.
Okay.
See, like,
Damn, I like that because nobody's ever really like asked me that specifically. Like, who are your R&B influences? Usher, clearly. Usher.
And can I just ask you on the Change My Number Part 2?
Yeah.
When you have somebody singing in the background.
That's me singing.
Yeah, no, but so you're singing and then there's like a background. It sounds like something that was off Usher's. Yeah.
That's from Let It Burn.
Yeah, that's
classic.
So
it's classic.
I just wanted to get that out of you, but yeah, Usher.
Yeah.
Who else? Or would you say?
D'Angelo, like, fucking, that album changed my life. Voodoo changed my life. That's the name of the album, right? I'm not tweaking. Right, okay.
Yeah.
I had a brain fart. Genuine
Okay.
is another one. I just said his name terribly. Genuine. Who else did I listen to? Avant, I listened to a lot when I was a kid. Donnell Jones. And a lot of soul. My grandmother loved Luther Vandross.
Okay.
So Luther Vandross is a big influence on my music. And anybody Kanye sampled.
Okay.
Basically.
Kanye samples are crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good segue into you and production. So you produce like almost all your tracks.
Yeah.
So when did you? So you said you started experimenting when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize? Because I know it's sometimes hard to trust for artists to trust themselves on production. When did you realize? Oh shit! Like I'm just as good a producer as like lyricist.
If you ask me, I'm a better producer than I am a lyricist.
Okay.
And I think I felt that way because like I can make a beat like just like water, and it just comes to me. And like writing is a little more difficult and resistant. But probably at around 15 or 16. Actually, no, I take that back. Up until this last album, the one that's about to drop, I thought I was a better writer than producer. And I finally felt like both met at the right space with this last album. So actually, kind of just now recently decided the answer to your question. But I developed both at the same time. Not so much because I didn't trust other producers. I didn't like all of the beats that I heard.
Yeah.
But there were also things that were a part of the beats that I wanted to change that I couldn't. And not only that, to sit in a session with a producer is something that's still pretty foreign to me to this day. So when I was younger, still trying to find myself, I was more so scared to sit in a room with a producer. But I knew that I needed to make beats for me to rap over. I knew I couldn't rap over other people's beats for my whole career. So that was the thought process behind me deciding to pursue production as much as I did writing.
That's dope. So on the production side, it's kind of a hot topic right now is payment and like recognition for producers.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's kind of missing in the industry right now? Is like the recognition of producers? They should get more light.
As a student of music, like they're on the credits.
Yeah.
The producers are in the credits, and I always imagine the Suge Knight speech when people ask me that question, because when I see a lot of producers now trying to be the face of music, I definitely understand why, but I imagine the Suge Knight speech, like, producers all in the videos, all on stage, and I'm just like, it's new to me, honestly, and I don't have a problem with it. But I do think, no diss to Khaled, but I don't like the albums he makes. He has great songs. He knows how to network and put people together, but I don't like the songs he makes. So like segueing that into say that some producers, just make a good album. I'm not gonna say like don't do something. It's just like just make a good album. If you make good music, it doesn't matter who's on the face of it. But my other philosophy is if somebody's on a song, credit that person. Shout them out. Do something. I try to tag anybody that I'm involved with musically in any of my posts. And a part of the recognition factor is the fan base too. How many fans that barely have enough attention to listen to a song past a minute, how many of them are going to go research and find out who made the beat to the song? Yeah. As a kid, I thought that the rapper made the beat, basically did everything. So that was another reason why I got into production, because it was like, that's what you do if you want to be a rapper. I didn't really read production credits when I'm 9, when I'm 10. So a lot of people, I think, have a similar mindset, whether it's they assume the rapper made the beat or they assume that the rapper's a star. It doesn't matter who made the beat. The rapper made the song, you know. So it's an education factor, I think, on the fan base side, and then from the artistic side, I think we're making a lot of strides in the right direction if we're looking for producer recognition. I think engineering recognition is something that is coming to the forefront, and I would like to see more at the forefront, because as an engineer too, that's a lot of work that goes into a song that only gets one name on it. But that's just how it's always been for the most part. But engineers deserve a lot more credit than they get. Definitely. Period.
Event news around the city. What would you say are some like your favorite performances you've done? So you look back and like, wow, that was definitely I had one right there.
To be honest, all of them are open mic performances. Just because I appreciate the intimacy. I'm a fan of words. So at open mics, words are appreciated if you're at the right open mic. So my favorite shows have been at DePaul open mics, UIC open mics. If we're talking about like things that I walked away from feeling refreshed and understood. So.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So you just dropped a song that a lot of people are talking about, Be Careful. How did that song come together?
That song came a little after my first hospital visit that was caused by an anxiety attack, where I was just kind of I literally felt like I relearned myself, because having something like that happen to you, and then for me after that, like that slipped into depression, just like the way my body reacted, the way my stress levels were for about 2 to 3 months straight. One of the things I learned was that what you think becomes a reality. If you think something is happening to you, that's what the placebo effect is. Then your body will respond to it. The mind's very powerful. And during that time, I spent a lot of time reflecting on things I had said, things I had done, things people had done to me, things people had said to me. And I just made that beat one day, or came back to the beat, because I made it a long time ago. And I just started singing, be careful, be careful, be careful. Like, I don't know how it came about. And then that first verse, I was doing something called morning pages. That's a part of this book called The Artist's Way. And I wrote that first verse as one of my morning pages. Most of it, like some of it's been edited, like the end parts and kind of like the bridge. And in that second verse, I don't know where I wrote that. I think I was on the way to therapy or coming from therapy writing that one. So a lot of it had to do with me just like living my life and trying to find a way to put that out into what I hear.
So that makes a good transition to your album.
Yeah.
The project's coming out next. What do you want to tell us about that? I know you got something big upcoming.
So my album, it's called Everything is Subjective. And I don't know how to describe it. When I think about it, it's a 2-part album. It's a full-length album, but I plan on releasing it similar or likening it to a TV series. So there's 1 episode and then there's 2 episodes. Putting them both together, you get the full story. But they both stand to tell a good chunk of the story on their own. And I discuss a lot of things that I've been through, a lot of thoughts that I have. And I employ a lot of like cinematic elements to it. Like it's just not something I've ever heard before. Like I listened to it and I honestly don't believe that came from me. So I'm excited for it to come out just because of the response I've gotten from Change My Number, from Be Careful. And in my head, those are like my most vulnerable songs. The songs I was most scared of letting people hear. And this is an album full of those songs where I let myself just kind of like dive into my fear and put it on record in a way that it just doesn't sound like anything to me. I can't compare it to anything I've heard. So can't wait for people to hear it.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to hear that. So before we wrap up, I've asked a few artists this question is, if somebody's never heard of you, how would you describe yourself as an artist?
I hate these questions.
Yeah, they're hard.
I hate these questions.
But what would you give them? This is probably an easier one. What songs would you point them to?
That's even worse. When 16 ain't enough. Like that. What songs would I play them? The songs that are out. Change My Number, Bitter Berries, Be Careful. Like that's a pretty good chunk of what I deal with my life. If you want to know who I am aesthetically, musically, arrangement-wise, my ability for rapping, listen to those 3 songs. I don't think there's a topic that I don't cover in those 3 songs.
Dope. So before we get out of here, where do people find you? Social media, all your social media channels, and where can they find your music?
So you can find me on the Twitters and the Instagram at LA Van Gogh. That's LA Van Gogh. Stop spelling my damn name wrong. People be putting a U in my name. LA Van Goughh. People that have my Twitter and they tag me in the post. And they spell my name wrong in the article. Like I get so heated. But I know it's an honest mistake. So if you need help with that, go to www.lavangogh.com. It's in the website. It's in my Twitter handle. You have so many ways to get it right. And that's it.
Well, man, thanks for coming through. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.